Hey, what's up guys? Chad here with the Reptile Rangers. Now we are again, of course, at the Kernersville Reptile Zoo and Medical Center again today. And we're going to talk about how to set up a good habitat, okay? Now, just before we get into that, right in that bottom corner right there is our subscriber button. Make sure you hit that. And for those that already have or just did, we appreciate you hitting the subscriber button and following along with us week after week after week. Now let's get right into this. Okay guys, so let's talk about first, there is no such thing as a perfect habitat. But when we want to start talking about setting up a good habitat, well, good is a relative term. So what I mean by good is that there's many different ways, as you'll start seeing right here, of setting up good habitats, okay? Now, I want you to think about this. When it comes to things, any kind of things, reptilian-wise, such as crested geckos, leopard geckos, bearded dragons, ball pythons, reed ticks, monitors, tegus, all different kinds of species of reptiles some have similar ecosystems, but they're different, okay? Now, there's many different ways in which we can do good. There's bad ways to set up a habitat, absolutely. But there's many different types of good. There is no such thing as perfect, okay? Even in nature can be perfect, but at the same time it's not, because even nature can destroy its own self, okay? It can upset its own ecosystems. It can create chaos inside of ecosystems, okay? So even nature itself is not perfect, but what we have to do is we have to look at nature and how these animals live in their natural environment to kind of get the best example of how we should set these habitats up. Now, I'm not going to talk about the ways in which to set up every single animal in every single habitat, because that's obviously impractical. But what this is this is meant to be a video that talks about just making sure that when we promote or we're getting a reptile, that we're setting it up in the best ways possible. Now, again, there's many different ways in which we can do that. Now, does that mean something like a ball python needs something the size that a reticulated python could fit in? No, not necessarily, because it might not even use that space. But it also doesn't need something the size of a fish bowl, because it needs more space than that. What we want to see is we want to see their habitat being in such a way that it enriches these animals. Basically, they have a way of enrichment, okay? So things like natural or fake. Now, I personally prefer a lot of natural, real stuff. Every bit of this in this Nile monitor's habitat is real rocks, heavy as can be, and real. The reason we like these is, for one thing, is also helps with this atmosphere, okay? For one, this real rock right here, that sun's beating down on it, and it's not like plastic. It's not going to scorch it. It's not going to melt or burn or break or anything else. But what happens is that rock will absorb the heat. Also, it helps to conduct heat. So it helps with heating of the whole environment as well. Number two, real rock is more naturally coarse. You can create things out of plastic, out of other materials that have a coursey feel, but nothing beats the real deal. So that helps the Nile monitor with shedding, with his nails, with a lot of different things, okay? Gives him things to climb on. And as you can see, all right, so if I'll show you right here, what I mean also by enrichment is setting up the habitat the way they would feel comfortable. Right here is a hole to go down into a cave system. Right here is a hole to go into a cave system. Right here is a hole to go into the cave system. And right there is a hole to go into a cave system. So he's got many ways in which he can go hide. He can go into a cave system with inside of this rocks. It'll also be much more climate controlled in there than what it will be right here, meaning it's cooler. So he's got a cool spot. He's got hot spots. Now, talking about humidity, and that's one of the things a lot of people are really going to preach, is got to have the right amount of humidity. Yes, but unfortunately, in the wild, they have natural air movement. It's open. In these particular types of habitats, anything that's enclosed, I don't care whether it's built or whether it's custom glass or whatever, it's going to be stagnant, moist air. There's no way for air to move. So what happens is it's not so much humidity and just humidity. It is moist air that just stays stagnant. So that creates a lot of things like bacterial infections, fungal infections, respiratory infections. Now, right up here in this corner, right there, okay, is a fan. All right. Now, it doesn't really matter the size. of the habitat. But if you're going to do humidity, then you need to have some form of airflow so that it doesn't just, they're not just breathing that stagnant, nasty, moist air in all the time, okay? So right up there is a fan that blows and just circulates air. It's a little small computer fan, okay? It doesn't have to be anything big. It's just something that circulates air. So understand, with things like your frogs, they can handle that kind of wet moisture. Even some of your gecko species can handle a little bit of extra moisture. Chameleons can handle a little bit of extra moisture. But even they don't need that stagnant, just standing air, almost like a fog. Think of a fog or a mist, a heavy mist, where it's just all in the air. Well, a lot of the times humidity can be so heavy that maybe we can't see it like the fogger or the mister would do, but it's there, and they're just breathing that in nonstop. That can be a bad thing too. So again, when we talk about setting up a good habitat, do your research on the animal themselves. There's nothing that we can mimic better than where they naturally come from. I don't care what idiots on Facebook groups say or what other, it doesn't really matter what the YouTube channel is. There's a lot of opinions and most of them are useless, okay? Unfortunately. Just because they do something and they say, oh man, I did this and it works, congratulations. That doesn't mean that the other, 480 million of that same species is going to be able to survive off the same thing. It doesn't matter what we do, and a lot of the times I talk about this and talk about in the fact of when we set up a habitat as humans, we set it up how it looks cool, or how we think it looks cool, how we want it to look, because we're trying to set up these showpieces in our homes, in our rooms, in our businesses, whatever the case may be. And so we're setting them up. Maybe they really do look good. Maybe they're super cool looking, but they may not be efficient for the animal itself. We have to think about the animal, okay? So when we set up a habitat, we have to stop worrying about how we think it looks cool, and we also have to go back to how does the animal live? How does it naturally survive in its habitat? If we can mimic as close as possible its habitat, we run into no problems at all. Heat, good UV, good vitamin and mineral exposure, and a proper balanced diet. 90% of your issues when it comes to whether a vet or whether we're dealing with an issue, a medical issue in a reptile, whatever the case may be, it's 90% of the time it bases off of the ecosystem. It bases off the habitat problems. And probably 75% of that time is because it's not warm enough. Does not have the proper heating. For one, you probably bought a kit from Petco or PetSmart, and those kits, half the crap in those kits are useless. If you want to know about that, go back in our episodes back to garbage reptile products. I've got a whole episode on those stupid kits. And so you can't have a universal kit for a lot of different species. And a 20-gallon tank, sending a 20-gallon kit with a 60-watt bulb, a day basking bulb for a bearded dragon that needs to be 105 plus degrees on his basking spot, they're just setting you up for failure, okay? Unfortunately, this is just setting you up for failure. So do your research, know how your animal should be set up, and from there, you're golden. No big deal at all. Now, I hope this has been helpful. This is setting up a good habitat for your reptile. Just talking about making sure, and honestly, not how to set it up, but going back to looking at exactly how your animal would live in the wild and mimicking that. Then you have a good habitat. All right? Now, this is Chad. We are the Reptile Rangers here at the Kernersville Reptile Zoo and Medical Center. We appreciate you coming along. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, the like button, hit the bell for notifications for when we put up new videos. Also, check out our TikTok channel entitled Reptile Rangers, the Kernersville Reptile Zoo's Instagram page. We also have the zoo here. Come feel free and see us. We have all kinds of cool stuff. The storefront where we have pets for sale all the time and all the supplies. We have all the dry goods, the lights, the bulbs, the lamps, the decor, the tanks. We have all the stuff. So if you're looking for something, feel free to come and see us. Let us know. We have the food for the animals as well. We appreciate you coming along. Make sure to write in and let us know of other things you want us to film about. I do have some up-and-coming episodes from people that have asked us to do that on things like different large constrictor species to cohabiting. Okay? Now, again, we do appreciate you coming along week after week after week. Our information will be in the description below for those needing to get in touch with us. We'll either see you here at the zoo or we'll see you on the next episode. Later.